Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm José.
And this is going to be a two-part podcast because we've both seen Downton Abbey separately. José's got a lot to say. So part one is largely José because he saw it first and we recorded it before I saw it.
Yes.
Part two is me. And this is a sort of a special occasion because people have been clamouring to hear us talk about Downton Abbey.
Yes.
God only knows why. And when it came up, I was like, I'm not seeing that. And then José said, no, we must see it. You'll hate it. It'll be hilarious. Yeah. And I thought, I'm not a performing monkey. But you know, I agreed to see it anyway. And actually, I was going to watch the TV series in preparation. I thought I might as well. When I thought it was 3 series long. And it turns out it's 6 series long with Christmas specials. I'm not doing that. So I'm going to go into the movie without any of that background. Did you watch the
I think I watched the first 2 seasons, and I think I quite liked the first season. I got why people enjoyed it so.
Right.
But
you didn't keep up with it?
No, it kind of it began to be boring and repetitive. It's a huge hit in the United States. It's the way that Americans like to think of Brits as.
The Crown as well. Netflix has a similar sort of.
Yeah, The Crown is much better.
But they love it too.
Yeah, they love it. Yeah, they love anything to do with royals or the aristocracy, and I can understand the appeal of that because I also love big houses and beautiful furniture and jewels and kind of I like that.
Yeah. But what happened here is you've seen it.
Yes.
On Friday, because I said I was going to see it with a friend who likes Downton Abbey, and I was like, I'll go with her then. That'll be nice. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. So you've already seen it, and I'm yet to.
Yes.
So what I want to do, while you're still angry...
Well, it's too bad that you didn't talk to me yesterday, because I was really seething yesterday.
I want to get your thoughts, because I don't care if it's spoiled or not.
Yeah.
And then, because you've got a real cob on. You've mentioned it more than a few times today already.
It made me really angry. Yeah. Really.
Well, go on then. Spoilers, I'm assuming, will come
Yeah, no, there'll be lots of spoilers. But the thing that made me angry was... the film has a particular tone, right? And a particular way of speaking, right? Mm-hmm. That is very condescending to its audience, for one thing, right? And this is both from the upper class and the lower, the downstairs people as well. Yeah, there is like kind of this banal tone of voice that, really kind of trivializes everything, right? It's a question of tone. Right, and both I think are speaking down to the audience, right? So it's not just the upper class people, though. Everything about it I really despise. I mean, I was suffering in the audience really because, it's like it's so so patronizing of working people. So everybody below stairs is like they're all plucky, and they're all doing their best for the family. Right, and they all accept their hierarchies and they know their place and they're delighted to be there, right? Actually, I think in a way, we are living through this enormous division in this country, really, at the moment. And one of the things that the film does is it erases all those differences. It kind of, in a way, it's an ideological project. It brings the upstairs and the downstairs together in one happy, beaming, kind of thing, where everybody absolutely knows and accepts their place, and you're listening to things like Lady whatever her fucking name is, saying, oh, we're going through such difficulties, how will we pay for the roof to be fixed, right? And that's given, as the problems of an aristocrat who owns a 250-room house, right? Yeah. Like, the problems that the downstairs people might have in keeping a roof over their relatives' heads or whatever is never stated. It's that kind of thing. So it's a tone of voice and an outlook, because Julian Fellows became famous writing the Robert Altman film
Gosford Park.
Yeah, and that was like so interesting and variegated and complex, right? And it gave all of the downstairs people like backstories and things about being abused, by the Lord, and two sisters who, kind of, haven't spoken because of things that happened downstairs, and, the American intruder on this way of life and how they patronize him. And, of course, Maggie Smith is also in that and also brilliant. But that's just like a very, a fascinating, rich kind of, story and a rich telling of it. This is really of the utmost banality.
Is this true of just the Downton Abbey film, or is it true of the TV show too?
Well, the thing is that on TV it didn't bother me that much because, so for example, one of the things that really bothered me was how visually poor this film is, right? So it's a much bigger budget than the television show, yet, you can't really see it anywhere, right? So kind of the film looks like it was shot with a digital camera. It's very clear. Everything is like, clear. It's very unflattering and uncaring of actresses of a certain age. Like Elizabeth McGovern is shot horribly. I mean, I would sue, this filmmaker, because, it's just uncaring and unkind. You can do better than that, right? She's a beautiful woman. I saw her on stage, and she's terribly shot. So, and also, it's not just that it has that thin digital look to the whole thing, right? But also that, the images don't mean anything, right? It's not a cinematic movie, really. And then the things that I normally like about these films, the rooms are quite sumptuous. But for example, all the jewelry looked cheap, right? Like none of it sparkled, none of it was lit to sparkle. It all looked like kind of dirty rhinestones instead of, fancy diamond tiaras, right? So there's a gay bit, where kind of the butler gets raided. He discovers there's a secret gay bar and there's like a little love affair there, and then it gets raided. But of course, he's rescued from the raid by virtue of who he knows. So it's a film that completely supports all the worst aspects of the British class structure and revels in them. And it's really, really painful to watch.
The director you mentioned is Michael Engler, who has done a lot of television, including some episodes of Downton Abbey. This, from what I can tell, he's got a very long sort of filmography, TVography. He's done 2 films, from what I can tell, which are recent. So there's this, and just before this, The Chaperone, which I don't think I've heard of, but it's written by screenplay by Julian Fellows, based on a novel by Laura Moriarty. Have you seen it? Do you know it?
No, I don't know anything about it.
It has this sound and look that is pretty similar. Look at it. Look at the poster.
The poster is identical, yes.
But point is to say that he is a television director. It seems to be kind of first and foremost. Television and theatre is
the film. The entire film looks like a television
episode.
Like an episode of television blown up. And actually, the blowing it up makes the thinness of the visuals all the more apparent. But what I really disliked was the tone of voice, the way the characters spoke in the sing-song kind of upper-class way, right? Which is just like absolutely patronizing. It's really, like, I was in pain watching it. And I must say, unlike in America where it's, I think it grossed even more than The Hustler or the
Hustlers,
on its opening.
The J-Lo film.
Yeah,
Hustlers film.
Here,
wow, it's made $100 million.
Downton Abbey.
Not on its opening weekend, but that's just a gross so far worldwide.
It's been a blockbuster hit in the US.
I mean, I knew it would be big, but that is huge.
Well, here at the screening that I went to, like about 4 or 5 middle-aged people walked out. So I think actually the whole class thing is playing differently here. Though I also have a lot of friends who have no problems with it.
So maybe some of that $107 million is people buying tickets then leaving, but they keep the money.
I would hope so, but I'm not sure. And I'm not sure that that's happening in America, but it's definitely happening here. Anyway, I think it's a massive ideological con, the film. I'm surprised people would put up with it. I'm surprised that there hasn't been more of a critical denunciation of this film. I think the film is, what's the word? It's damaging. It's not an innocent little thing. It really is kind of an ideological project that maintains, particular ways of thinking and particular structures of feeling that are all that's wrong with Britain at this moment. And I hated it.
Let me just quickly say, I've just quickly looked it up. Opening weekend of $31 million.
Yeah.
Which is vast, really.
Yes.
And higher than its
I think its budget was 30 million.
Yes, it's basically... No, but budget 13 to 20 million. So
there you go.
And that seemed to be roughly what its projected gross from the opening weekend was 16 to 25 million, it says here. So it made 31.
Yeah, it exceeded expectations. And it's really vile.
Are there films that you would compare it to?
No, I'm not. I don't have anything else in mind because, as I said, for example, people despise British heritage cinema. I always loved it. I loved Room with a View and Morris and what's the other, Ian Foster, Howard's End. I loved all of those films. But those films were much more visually literate and rich and complex than this. This is really cheesy, patronizing, condescending, really hateful.
Is it revisionist?
In what sense?
I don't know. I just thought that might spur you to shout some more.
No, I don't think it's. I mean,
all right. I'm just trying to think of words that will get you active.
I think there's. I mean, there are lots of things to think about. So obviously, mine is a completely knee-jerk reaction at the moment. But I think there's a difference between I am fascinated by stately homes and furniture and clothes and jewels, right? I mean, I think, those are all kind of legitimate crafts or art forms, and I appreciate kind of going and seeing the best of it, right? But I think this film, and a lot of those things are what a certain type of British heritage cinema, certainly of the 80s, put on display. That's a large part of the reason why people went to see films like that. And I think part of the appeal of the television series also has to do with that, right? But I think what this film does is it's kind of, it creates a cozy picture of people who know their place and are happy to be there and are happy to collude. So when they talk about the family, they always mean the upstairs family. There's no downstairs family, right? So everything is in support of the family, which means everything is in support of the upper classes. And I just think it's really hateful, It's
a story about how the working classes come together to support.
Yes, and there's a nostalgia. The film has a nostalgia for that. That's somehow the proper order of things. Is that
know your place?
Know your place. And be happy that you've got one here, right? And kind of, I just find it despicable.
Well, how the tables have turned, you are now my performing monkey.
I know.
But Jose's done the first bit, and I will see it tomorrow, I think.
Yes.
And then what I might do is just come and go, I agree with Jose, and that's it. But
no, I will quiz you.
But we're putting out in one.
Actually, what I regretted, in a way, what I regret is that had we talked yesterday, I would have been able to offer you much more concrete examples of dialogue.
Sure.
Because I had this whole thing in my head of just doing imitation British accents of some of the dialogue. Right, it's just so obscene. Right, but of course I've now forgotten. So so kind of.
You could always come and see it with me and recharge.
No, thank you. So I remember my feeling about it, but I no longer remember the particular incidents that incited that.
Okay,
feeling.
I'll try and remember lots and lots of things. For you and read them back.
You will be quizzed.
So, end of part 1.
Yes,
Thus,
we will continue.
We will return soon.
Okay.
Part 2. Welcome back. I've now seen it.
Yeah, so what did you think?
I saw it today. I don't share your sense of anger, but well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I saw it with an audience. I shared a picture on social media and stuff. An audience that was fairly full of pensioners.
Yes, 80-year-olds.
All seeing it at midday with me. I was very much the odd one out.
Yes.
Also big drink, big popcorn, and I just sat at the back in the corner to keep myself to myself out of everyone's way. I didn't want to disturb anybody, because I thought I'm not here to ruin anyone's good time by having a bad time. But I didn't have an awful time. I was just very, 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 very bored. And the thing is, everything that you said in your impassioned rant, I agree with, but I don't share your sense of outrage because I completely expected it. And I expected it in part because you had already said it, but also because this is ITV. It's just crap. The thing that most offended me about the film was not its civility, which is absolutely like that. I think it has this thing about wanting to do your job properly and taking pride in your job, and I agree with that. But what I don't agree with is the sense of civility, that there are people above us that we must please, and all of that which you pointed out. I did find deeply revolting, and I'm sure that would be true of the TV show if I ever watched it. But what really bothered me and offended me is that this isn't a film. It's an episode of a TV program.
Well, that too. I mean, so for me it was all kind of part of the package. I hated the look of it. So people are saying, okay, we know it's crap, but I'm going there for like the costumes and the rooms and the jewelry and actually you think, well, that's all crap in this film. Like, those are things that I agree are pleasures in cinema, but I hated them here, and I hated them because, so first of all, I'm really into jewelry, right? Like, I love the history, the designs, everything. Kind of, part of the thing about jewelry is that it sparkles. It's meant to sparkle. It's meant to kind of bring light along with you as, these women move in the room with these tiaras. The way that this film was lit, either the jewelry was like cheap as chips, or it was badly lit. It didn't kind of draw attention, sparkle, nothing. It was like...
No, it's cheap, kind of largely pretty flat TV lighting. Then you get into some darker areas where they put some contrast in. But again, it's still nothing special. You look at the way it's composed and filmed. It looks like a film that has been filmed quickly.
Yeah.
So, everything's been set up expensively. Like, these are expensive sets and costumes and dressing and all of that. It's put a lot of work into that. But then it's like it's been filmed very quickly. Upstairs you get these shots that are on tripods and dollies, which are kind of steady and they're not brilliantly composed, but at least they're kind of vaguely thought out. Once you get downstairs to kind of increase the sense of, I suppose, activity and things. Like, it's that thing that they say in the film about how when you look at a goose, above water it's completely serene and below water it's kicking about all over the place, which is how they talk about the royal visit. And so the camera work kind of reflects that. When you get downstairs, not shaky cam exactly, but handheld, moves around. But all these shots are basically kind of medium length, sort of close-ups or medium close-ups, blurry background. They cut from one to the other, and then you get a bit of a wide-angle shot that gives you just a sense of space. There's nothing nicely composed or interestingly composed. There are beautiful things to look at, like kind of some of the scenery, the establishing shots of Downton Abbey are quite beautiful, and some sunsets, things like that. But it's not the camera work or the lighting or anything like that that makes them so. And there's nothing expressive to any of it.
It's really bad. It's almost like offensively bad. And I want to take you to task, actually, because, yesterday we saw Apocalypse Now, and you said, oh, it's good. And I'm thinking, it's fucking great! You think, oh, it's good. Right?
I didn't say that about the cinematography. I was bowled over by that. Maybe I didn't make that clear enough. I mean, I was stunned by the visual aspect.
Anyway, the point I want to make is that you see that film, and like there's so many things going on in the frame, and so many layers, and the lighting is expressive of things and symbolic of things. This is flat. Yeah. You look, and basically you're just waiting for the person to say dialogue. That's why the camera is there. It's expressing nothing else. And then the dialogue.
Well, this is how it's televisual as well, that point you just made. This is what because I was thinking this is TV, but what makes it TV? It's not just that it's badly filmed, because I've seen lots of badly filmed films that are still films. Why is this television? And the reason it's television is because everything is expressed through dialogue. So apart from a couple of like montages where it's setting up for dinner, all that sort of stuff, or the royals arriving, or the whole opening montage with the letter being sent that announces the royals are going to come and stay. You have to actually look at that to understand what's happening. But you even get that on TV. Everything else it's all expressed through dialogue, and as you say, the dialogue is
dire.
awful. But it's like a radio play almost. Like you could close your eyes and understand 95% of the film, and it's all like I mean it's like footsteps up a gravel path A, footsteps up a gravel path B, the clink of someone making a cup of tea. Even the sound design is boring.
It's radio.
And obviously I don't know the show. So, but I picked kind of vague things up pretty quickly, although there is this vast cast of characters and a lot of them all look the same as well, so that didn't really help. But I wasn't particularly confused about what was going on. The various plot strands are pretty easy to grasp. But again, it ties into the episodic nature of it. This makes sense as, for instance, a Christmas special. Like it would make sense being shown at Christmas. Okay, it's not set at Christmas, but it would make sense being just the latest sort of special in the series. It happens to have made its way into the cinema.
I find it offensive, and actually I think, part of what I am struggling with is why people like you don't find it equally offensive. Because, basically I think everything that's wrong with the British class system is evident or made visible not only by this film, but by people's appreciation of it. Right, that kind of nobody sees any problem with it, and yet it's so disparaging to working people, and it's like kind of and by disparaging I mean that the idea that people getting shitty salaries in terrible working conditions with no day off, facing sexual harassment, from the people above and so on, which was like a truly common story of the period. If you read about the lives of maids and, kind of people who worked in these houses. And then you see what's being depicted here. I find it deeply offensive.
I think the reason that my response is that I roll my eyes because I see it coming. Like I know what the audience is expecting. I understand their response, and I'd say I was very snobby not very snobby, but I just sort of. Every time the audience laughed at whatever Maggie Smith did because they're all set up for these little parts, whatever. Every time something happened, I just went, "Yeah, you're getting what you want."
Yes.
I even laughed at a couple of them, and some of them.
Well, they were good. I mean, she's great.
But just every little bit that they recognised or they liked, I went, "Yeah, I get it. I get who this is for and why."
I had people walk out at my screening though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. What was the composition of your screening anything like mine? Was it mainly?
Oh yeah, I mean I think I went. There were younger people because I went later. Yeah, so I mean, kind of these noon screenings are mainly for people who are retired. But I went later, and so the audience was maybe a little bit younger, not much younger, but a little bit younger, and the people who did walk out were younger. But they did walk out.
Yeah, no, sure. You asked you had been trying to think of examples when we first talked of things that happened in the film, and you couldn't quite remember. And having seen it more recently, I can maybe think of one or two moments that you would likely have responded to it quite badly because I thought, oh god, this is a load of deferential old claptrap. It's this whole thing of the king is coming, and we must and everything is geared towards the king is fantastic and we love him. And even though some of it's played a bit for a laugh, there's that one character who really overdoes it, and he just can't contain himself that the king is coming, and then he actually speaks up at dinner, and then he loses his voice and all the rest. Some of it's played for a laugh, but still you're basically with him, like you are supposed to be thinking like the monarchy is coming. There's a line where it's just as they're arriving at the house, and everyone's lined up to be greeted, or to greet them, and it's like the head maid and the old fellow with the posh voice, who comes back, the retired head butler who comes back. That's right. It's been raining the day before, and now it's sunny, and the woman says something like, "God is a monarchist."
Yeah,
and he says something like, didn't we always know it, or something like that. And he's just going like that. I think we all have to believe that to like this film.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, those are not the things that bother me most, because, you can imagine this is a film that's set in 1927. Most people don't even have radio, much less television, or, and kind of, that is the most famous person in the world, appearing. So I think the fact that people would be excited and all.
Oh no, it's definitely sort of realistic.
I completely get that.
It's also that sort of I think are expected to be like. There's one character who basically is cynical, you know, and sort of left leaning, and what passes for left leaning, and although she gets to express herself, she's told at all points to shut up, as is everyone else. I mean, everyone basically is told to shut up and know their place in this, no matter what anyone says. Even when they're saying something nice, they just say, "Oh, shut up." Yeah. But certainly all the downstairs people. So like it's certainly, I think, sort of realistic that everyone is so excited that the king and queen would be coming. But
for me, this is like a dumb kind of ugly movie that tells lies, and so people's complacency about it, like, you know, kind of people just willing to kind of roll over and say, "Oh, you know, I like the tiara or whatever," it makes me ill.
Yeah. I basically felt the same way, but I felt like I was kind of prepped for it. And I'm surprised, in a way, I suppose, that you were so revolting. I'm surprised that you didn't see it coming.
Well, the thing is, I love films, you know, about aristocrats and so on. It really was, in this case, that, you know, the tone. There's something about the tone that made me ill. You know, the whole thing seemed very patronizing. You know, the way that, and it was actually in this very bad acting, very bad dialogue mode. You know, like saying, "Oh, you know, all right, Maud, let's see what the servants are doing," or something, right? And it was like a particular tone of voice. And then, of course, you know, this whole idea that the servants would be poisoning the king's staff so that they could serve. I mean, it's just stupid. Can you imagine? Right? Like, kind of, you know, that. So on the one hand, you have, the king is coming, and the king is quasi-godlike or famous. And on the other hand, you're going to poison their servants so that you could serve. I mean...
Well, yeah, it's bollocks.
Well, but it's stupid.
Yeah, there are other plot points that kind of raised my gall, just in the sense of not making any sense. Which was, one of them was with the well, this is, I suppose, a spoiler, but, you know, this film cannot be spoiled. It is just bad. It's the fella who you think might be a sort of spy.
Yes.
For the king and queen.
Yes.
Who shows up. He calls himself Major something, and he's the guy who played the teacher in History Boys. And he's questioning this Irish Republican or former Irish Republican fella. And you think that he's basically doing it because he's trying to figure out if he's going to try and attack the king. As it turns out, this guy is himself an Irish Republican. He's English, but he's Republican, and he wants the guy involved on a plot. He wants to use him to get close to the king. Yeah. Right? So that's kind of interesting, except for the fact that this guy's plan consists of just running across this parade through the Yorkshire town where they are, and seeing the king and aiming a gun at him, and he was going to shoot him, but then the guy tackles him, right? And so his plan does not need to involve this guy. He doesn't need this Irish guy to get close to the king. He just finds him in the open. That doesn't make any sense. The thing about the boiler, you know, the boiler's broken, we get the plumber in to fix it, the guy gets jealous, so he breaks the boiler again in a jealous rage.
Again.
Fine, I mean, it's TV soap stuff, but that's fine. But then the boiler doesn't show up for the rest of the film. It's not that the boiler then continues to cause problems, the boiler just goes away.
What I hated was when the eldest daughter from upstairs says, "Oh, you know, we've got to fix the roof. Like, where are we going to get the money? Yeah, like, it's so difficult to maintain this house." And you really think, fuck off, right? Like, you know, it's 1927, right? It's not like post-war where taxes were, right? So, you know, you're made to feel worried about, you know, how this person who owns a 250-room house is going to fix a roof, and then, like, there are people downstairs who don't even have a roof, you know? Like, it just...
Yeah, well, their roof is the feet of the people upstairs.
Yes. Exactly. Right? So it's not just that I so intensely dislike the film, is that I almost feel that kind of people being complacent about it kind of reproduces that whole system. I mean, I do think, you know, what this film represents is everything that's wrong with the country.
I think that's what ITV represents.
I can't speak for ITV, I don't watch it enough.
I try not to, but I ended up paying fucking for 2 hours of it today. Well, nominally paying, to be fair. I mean, the Cinema Unlimited card is basically a free ticket, but still. There were one or two things that I liked. Guardedly.
Okay.
I was kind of interested in the Irish Republican character. As in the Irish fella, not the guy who tries to actually kill the king.
Uh-huh.
From what I could gather of his character, he came from kind of nothing and then married into the family.
He was staff who married the family, I think.
Yeah, that's the kind of impression I got. So he kind of lives in this in-between place, he straddles the kind of upstairs and
That's
downstairs. Right. And then, and that makes sense that he...
marries the other person who's also straddling.
Yeah, or at least has an attraction. They're attracted to each other. That kind
they
of
will write letters.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be like a very 84 Charing Cross Road sort of Anthony Hopkins thing. But I just thought that was kind of interesting because part of what I understand about the show is this kind of separation between upstairs and downstairs, and the idea of someone straddling those worlds kind of interests me. It's very light, but that's something that I just found interesting. The gay subplot, I'm sure you have thoughts on.
Yes.
The one thing that occurred to me is that the depiction of the hideout secret club, whatever you might call it, although it is very light on, you see one kiss basically in that club, and it's just dancing apart from that. Yeah. So it's very ITV sort of sanitized sort of thing. But it did strike me that it was pleasant. It was good that everyone is happy there, and there was no sense of seediness to it, which I kind of liked. Well, I thought might have been predictable.
I don't know. I hated that as well, and I hated it, because, they get raided, and then of course everybody's sent to jail, but this guy is, and this is at a time where they would have been sent to jail, right? And their future job, they would have been fired and no job it would have been a part of their permanent record. And of course, he gets off scot-free because of his connections, right? So, but actually that's not the way it's made to seem. It's made to seem, this guy is interested in him sexually, so gets him out, right? But then you think, what about all the poor fucking other people?
Yeah, that occurred to me.
It's just kind of outrageous. So basically it's another way of shoring up the privilege, right? If you're rich and if you have connections and so on, you're fine. But that's the world it's presenting. Actually, the moment after is almost a celebratory one, right? The two guys are cruising. When will I see you again? Will I see you in London or something, right? So it turns it into a happy moment, right? Whereas actually, I think it should be like a kind of a sad moment for everyone else. Their lives are ruined now.
Should be a kind of there, but for the grace of God, go on.
Go on, or something.
Everyone else who could...
A little thought to the little people, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It also occurred to me that one of the things that's very sanitised about it is when the police show up and arrest everybody, the officer in charge says, "You dirty perverts." Yes. He's like, there's no way that language would have been used. He would have said something a lot harsher.
Yeah, for sure.
Dirty perverts.
But
slap on the wrist. I know, but that's
those are minor things in the film. I mean, kind of.
The other thing was, though, remember when we saw... Oh, God, I can't remember what it was, but there was a film with... It was Bohemian Rhapsody, and because that had a slightly older audience when we saw it. And we picked up on... Or you picked up on... when there was a gay kiss in it, like a fella sort of a few seats down from you went, ooh,
yes.
sort of reacted to it. And I kind of... That's why I was looking out for that sort of thing in this, because I thought, is the audience like... They're with the character, so they like him... But then, will they be with the gayness?
Yes.
To be fair,
they were.
They seem to be fine with it.
Yeah.
They like the character.
No, that kind of that wasn't an issue. I groaned throughout. I was like in pain watching it actually, and I think it's very interesting because, so. I blame Julian Fellows, the writer, and rightly so. I mean, it's very badly directed, but it's kind of the writers who rule in the television show, right? And he's the one, Julian Fellows, who's been associated with it. And he actually made his career writing a very similar thing with Robert Altman, right? What was it called?
Gosford Park.
Gosford Park. And yet you look at Gosford Park, and, the world depicted upstairs and downstairs, completely different. right? Upstairs they have like fascist leanings, some of them. You know, the old guy sexually abused the maids downstairs and kind of broke up the family. Like, you get a sense of a world, yeah? And, you know, then there are good people and there are bad people upstairs and downstairs, right? But this rosy tinted, you know, love letter to the aristocracy is really sickening. And you know, incredibly different than what Altman did in Gosford Park.
Yeah, I was sort of trying to think more about the monarchy thing, because it's also the sort of overall structure for the film, and it's why everyone becomes so bloody deferential in such a revolting, bend-the-knee way. But then that is, you know, they were the absolute sort of... They were kings.
It wasn't just that. I remember being a student at UEA, and the Prince of Wales came to visit. You know, and all these people who were like socialist workers and blah, 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 and, you know, kind of labor this and labor that. As soon as the Prince of Wales, you know, airport landed, they all went. Like, you know, you'd think there would have been demos or something. No, they all went to worship. So, you know, there is... But the
film tries to use this visit as a way of sort of turning the upstairs people into downstairs people to an extent in the film. And it's short-lived. And
that's a good point, yes, indeed.
But they try to sort of say, like, they're being downtrodden as well. So there's this thing about... there's a thing about how the downstairs people are all going to be put out of a job by these people coming, because the king is bringing all his own staff.
Yeah, they're not being put out of a job; they're just not allowed to serve.
Not
which
fired,
is very different.
But it's basically like go home for the weekend because we are in charge. You have nowhere to be.
You're not good enough to serve the king.
But then it's also the sense of, you know, they're coming in, they're taking over the house. The upstairs people, Lord Grantham or whoever it is, and all that lot, are no longer in charge of their own house for the next couple of days, you know, and so they become subservient, which they are basically not used to being. So the film attempts to draw this parallel, and then to say, well, we're all in it together for Downton, you know. And there's a lot of talk about Downton Abbey as though it's a character.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think the film almost tries to do like a Notre Dame thing in the Victor Hugo sense of saying, you know, they talk about the house has been here for 300 years. It'll be here for 300 years hence, and all the people who lived here were different, and things will be different in the future, but the Downton will be a part of all their lives. And you're like, fine, okay.
Maybe. Some did, some didn't. But you know what I hated?
It's also quite depressing, you know, to sort of say, well, these class structures are going to be here for 300
Forever.
years.
But it also whitewashes everything, which I hated. So for example, you know, one of the famous things about Queen Mary is, the myth is that she used to steal stuff. She used to go visit these houses, and she used to steal what she liked. I think the reality, or at least what I've read from the biographies, is that she would manipulate people into giving them to her. Yeah. But the film turns it into, it's the maid that did it. You know, which is really outrageous, right? So either you deal with it with some kind of complexity to it, but again, you're blaming the servants, right? It's kind of, you know, if there's going to be a thief, it has to be a poor person. It's just outrageous on every level. I didn't even know
that was an existing thing about...
Oh yes,
Mary. I didn't know that was something. I thought that was an invention for the film.
No. She collected antiques and do that. She loved like all of those things, and when she saw something pretty that she liked in a stately home, she would basically say, "Oh, isn't that a pretty? I wish I had that pretty little thing." Right? And they would, people would end up giving it to her.
Yeah.
I don't think she stole anything, but anyway, the myth is that she would, just pocket everything that she liked and go off with it. And so what this film is doing is reiterating that myth, but now blaming her servant.
Yeah, and then the servant gets told off by the other servant from Downton.
That's right.
That was all just annoying and difficult to watch. It's going,
was my reaction to the whole thing.
It's just very sickening, some of it. And it is just this, I know that it's pretty realistic, but then the reality is sickening, which is this deferential, rubbish. Oh, they're coming, they're so important. And the one person who doesn't think they're very important is basically lip service to that idea and just gets told to shut up.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of, and do you believe in her sort of revolution? No.
No. I just hated it.
Well, you know, it's made a lot of money and people like it.
It's made a lot of money.
And that means it's good in the eyes of the Conservative government.
Well, I mean, it really makes you wonder about people because you think, okay, I mean, well, it's bad enough to say you liked it as far as I'm concerned, okay? But, you know, people are weird, you can like it. But to say it's good, like, you know, how blind, deaf, dumb, and stupid do you have to be, you know?
Yeah, which that's judging it on the terms of I've seen the TV show and I like it and I just want more.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. That's on that basis. I think and even if you would kind of find it objectionable in some other context, I think that blinds you to a lot when you like something already. You want the next thing to be good too. You just want to like it. You like everything about it.
No, it's true. You go in with the idea of liking, but I remember liking the first season of Downton Abbey. I'm not averse to this type of material at all. In the least, I normally like it. So it's not about that type of thing in general. It's about this specific thing. You know
how it's treated here.
Yeah, which I think despicable.
Yeah, I didn't like it, and you know I just resent being made to watch ITV at any time. So, you know, I really do. I tell you what I did just quickly, because like I said, I was gonna watch the show, and then there was so much more of it than I realised. I said, well, no way. Then I thought I'd read a plot synopsis, so I tried to do that, and that was boring. Just like a synopsis of the recap of all the series, and it's like it's Lord Grantham this and Lady this that, and he goes here and she goes there and blah blah blah. Oh god, it's just a load of fucking bullshit. And then I just tried reading a plot synopsis of the film before I went to see it, and that was boring. And it's still all this Earl Chatham.
I loved Maggie Smith. You know, when she first appeared. I mean, you know, her lines were so witty and her delivery was so fantastic, you know, that, I mean, the series, at least, because I did stop watching, it became unbearable as well, you know, but initially I did kind of find it entertaining for all those reasons.
Well, she's, there's a term, I'm just trying to look for it, I think it's Flandersization, or Flandersation. It's a TV tropes thing. Flanderization. It's related to the character Flanders in The Simpsons, where like a single minor characteristic of someone will over time be blown up, and it becomes their thing, and they become a total caricature. And that strikes me as what Maggie Smith's character is in this.
Yeah.
So everything she has to say is catty and scheming,
and
like she may have been like that. Maybe it's very similar to what she was like at the start, but it just seems she's just this one note character, really.
Yeah.
So, like, I get why people like her, you know, in the same way that people like Flanders, and I like Flanders, but she just does this one thing, and you're going, and for a newbie, you're going, this is the thing you're all here for? Like, she's the star?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I get why she's in control of every scene that she's in. Like,
she's wonderful.
She's a wonderful performer, Maggie Smith, and her character clearly has that sort of status, but it's just not very good.
No.
Not very complex.
And the lines aren't as good as they were before. It isn't as acid, and it's not as surprising as it used to be. And
there's not nearly enough drama in the whole story about the girl who turns out to be the daughter, who's going to be the heir. I mean, that should be hugely dramatic, and it's just resolved almost off screen.
Yes.
Like by the time you join them in that last conversation around that little coffee table, it's basically already been explained to Maggie Smith, and she's fine with it. And then you find out, she's got her plans for the guy to marry her, blah blah. But like, it's.
Grantham blood will be in that stately.
It's not dramatic enough. It's not like a climax, you know. It's not like it's not cinematic. It's here's the latest development. Next episode next week.
Yeah.
You know.
Anyway, that's we've given this enough time.
Yeah. Okay.
So don't see it.
Well,
Fuck him.
Well, yeah. Well, see it if you have to, because if you're a Downton person, you'll see it, and who cares what we think? I mean, that's how it goes.
Well,
unfortunately.
But for more enlightened people, avoid it like the plague.
Have you read any reviews of it?
No, I haven't.
No, nor have I. I just wonder if anyone has...
I mean, I've seen lots of friends talking about it on Facebook, and they make me ill as well. I mean, how could you be a friend of mine and like such shit?
Do you want to name any of them?
No names. No.
I just wonder whether people in other reviews have actually wanted to talk about or thought of talking about ideological sort of background to it. I think, I doubt it, because I think when you're talking about it as a TV show that you know and love, and the characters that you know and love, and all you'll be talking about is the plot, how the things developed this week.
Anyway.
Tripe, avoid, but if you're the kind of person to watch ITV, you're not going to listen to me anyway. Well, you and I live in two different worlds, if that is the case.
Yeah, but those people don't listen to this fantastic program. They don't deserve it.
No.
So, all right. Well, thank you very much for listening. I could just imagine Mike coming back, going, "Okay, bye," and then. Yeah. So let's end it here.
But what really makes me happy is that you were like, "Oh, we must see this. You're gonna hate it," and you hated it so much more. I am your performing monkey. Yeah. I just knew what it was going to be and just went, yeah.
Now we've got to see Rambo.
I think, and we've been asked to see Rambo, and I think that'll be fine and a lot better than this.
Oh, I hope so.
I'm sure I'll enjoy it more.
I think I will too, actually. I couldn't enjoy it less.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Thank you very much for listening. We're Eavesdropping at the Movies, and we are on
iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. On social media, we're on Facebook and Twitter, and the website is eavesdroppingatthemovies.com.
Okay, great.